Hello everyone, welcome to Malim Chess Skills. Today I'll show you the game played by Danylo and Alexandra, and the game complete in only 23 moves. And the game start with pawn to e4, c5 was played, then d4, and now the pawn c takes d4, then c3 and d3 was played. Well, in this position actually you can just capture the pawn by taking the d takes c3, or you can just develop with the knight to f6. So d3 was played, and after this bishop capture back the pawn, bishop takes d3, and you have knight to c6. Then c4 was played, and the black played g6, and here is the first 5 move, and both we have the equal position. Then the game to continue, knight f3, bishop to g7, then the white castling, then d6 was played, d6, and after this h3 was played, and now the black have the strategy to move the knight to the center square by playing knight f6, and here is a critical path to bring the knight from g8 to f6, then to d7 and to e5, and if the knight capture, another knight will just capture back the knight. So this is the idea that the black play to bring the knight to the center of the square, and the black will have many activity in the center of the game, and this is the one of the black strategy. So after this, the white continue to play knight to c3, then black castling, and after this bishop to e3, then the knight d7, and the next step you move the knight towards the center of the square. So at this is the first 10 move, and you can see that the game is still in the equal position. And after this, the white continue to develop the rook to c1, bring up the rook to the center of the square. So after this, the knight to e5, then the white move the bishop to e2, and then bishop to e6 was played, and b3 was played for protecting the pawn because the bishop is attacking the pawn. And now rook to c8, and after this the knight to d5, moving ahead, and the white try to bring the knight to the center of the square and to get some activity. Maybe you can capture the pawn at e7 and bring more of the pieces to attack, such as bishop to g5 and attack the pawn. So after this, queen to d7, then the queen to d2, and here the black play f5, and this idea is to bring up the rook for the activity. So after this, the pawn takes e5. After the capture, then the bishop capture back, bishop takes f5, and at this position now the white bring another knight to the center of the square, knight to d4 and attacking the knight or attacking the bishop. So knight to d4. Then at this point the black made a sacrifice, and the black move the bishop and capture the h3 pawn. So a sacrifice of the bishop for a 2 pawn. Bishop takes the pawn, then the queen will capture back the pawn. So bishop takes h3, then the pawn capture back, and after this the queen takes h3. So after this position, then the white continue to exchange, knight takes c6, and now the pawn takes c6. Then the knight to f4, and here the white is slightly better because we have extra pieces for the 2 pawn. After this, the black play knight to f3. So in this actual game, after the pawn capture the c6, the white continue to play a knight takes e7 and check the king. And able to capture the rook. So this position will be better if the white move knight to f4, and after knight check, then the bishop will just capture, and after queen capture, then the knight to g2, and the king is safe from any checkmate. But in the actual game, the white capture the pawn and check the king and attacking the rook. So king to h8 to move away. Then now rook, the queen takes the pawn, and if the white capture the rook, then you have the knight to f3 and check the king. So this force the bishop to capture back the knight. So after bishop capture, then you can just play a bishop to e5 and preparing for checkmate. And here, if you block with the bishop, then the bishop will just capture the bishop and again preparing for the checkmate. And if you move away the rook, such as rook f to d1 and preparing the king to move to escape, then after this position the game will be equal. So for example, after bishop check the king, and now the king cannot move, so after king move to h1, then you have the rook takes attacking the bishop and also preparing for discover check. So after capture, then the white can play a knight takes the pawn. Then here you can have bishop takes the knight and check the king, and the king go to g1, and still you can't checkmate the king. So if you move away the queen to h2 and check, then the king is freely to escape, and here you'll be winning by extra rook. So the only game the game continue is the king to g1, and then the bishop continue to check, and then the king to h1, then you just go to bishop to any place and continue the perpetual check. So in the actual game, after king h8, the queen capture the pawn, and here is a tactical blunder, and at this point onward the black is clearly winning. So the black will just continue to move the rook and attack the queen, and here the black will control the d file. So after rook c to d8 and attack the queen to c5, and after this position you can see that the black is winning and made in 11 move, and the correct move at this position is to move the knight and preparing to go for a queen checkmate. And if you capture by the bishop, then the queen will just capture back and preparing the rook to the attack. So in the actual game, after the queen c5, the black play rook to f3, and this create the equal position, and the white can actually move the rook to e1 or rook to d1, and the king will have a place to escape for the square. So after this position, the black made another blunder move by playing a rook c to d1, and after this position the black is winning and made in 2. I give you a couple of seconds to figure out how the black can play in this position. Well, congratulations for those who found the answer, and for those who like to enjoy the show, here are the moves. The queen to g4 and check the king. So the queen move to g4, and now there's nothing that the white can block the check, therefore you need to move the king to h1 or h2. So after the check, the white resign, and if the game to continue, the king move to h1, then you just use the rook to checkmate. So back to the position, the last move at this g4, and it also the black will winning, because after the bishop capture the knight, then you have the queen to check the king, and now the king only have 2 places. So if the king move to h1, then the rook will continue to come to f3 and go to h3 and checkmate. So rook to f3, and now you have to protect the square of h2 or prevent the rook to go to h3. So if the bishop move to f4 to protect the square, then the rook can continue to check the king, and now the bishop block, then you can have a queen to f4 and attack the bishop. So queen to f4 and attack the bishop, and here the whites have nothing to prevent the checkmate. So with the queen to e5, then you can just capture with the bishop or capture with the queen. So if you capture with the bishop, and now again there's nothing that the white can do, and if you want, you just delay the checkmate by using the knight to capture the king and check. And after pawn capture, and now any move from the white, for example king to g2, then you can just have the queen takes h2 and checkmate. And with this, thank you.